Well, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk with Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk with Cutler program. And you all know how I do. I'm only here for 1,800 seconds, but I'm here to offer some inspiration, motivation, and challenge us to show up a little bit better tomorrow than we did today. It doesn't mean today was a wash. It doesn't mean that we just totally messed up today, but it means that we're going to share an opportunity and we're going to talk about some nuggets to see how we can become a little bit better. I want to start by posing this question to you and asking you, how confident are you? On a scale of 1 to 10, really, how confident are you? How confident are you in your faith? How confident are you in your own strength? How confident are you in your God? How confident are you in your ability to get things done? We're going to talk about that, and we're going to see how we can become a little more strong in our confidence, all right? Listen, I'm only here again for 1,800 seconds. And do me a favor, if you're just perusing by my channel, stop. Don't go anywhere. Let's see if we can pick up some motivation, some inspiration for tomorrow, all right? Listen. Tell somebody that Cutler is on and tell them we're going to talk about becoming a little more confident. So go and get them. Tell them, come on, let's talk to Cutler. I'll be right back right after this, okay?
Let's talk to Cutler.
I'm back. Listen, it's already January. It is not January. As hot as it is outside, it's far from January. It's July the 8th, you all. And again, I'm only here for 1,800 seconds every Tuesday and every Thursday. I show up looking for you. And in just a moment, I'll shout out the LTTC VIPs, those who come on over to the chat and talk to me first, who make the way to the chat. Again, if this is your first time, let me say thank you. Go ahead and subscribe. Click on the notification bell so you will know when I've uploaded new content, whenever I've gone live. So that way you can just sort of keep up with me and know when I'm here. And again, if you're coming on, just go ahead and click a like on the conversation. It says to YouTube that you kind of like the stuff that we talk about. It also encourages me and lets me know that the content that I'm offering is indeed helping us to become better. As you all know, every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm reading from this book. I'm reading quotes from my 7th book, Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration Along the Highway of Life. It just runs off of my tongue just like that now. What is this book about? It is about us driving along the highway, riding along the highway, reading these different billboards, applying those things to our lives. We're picking up passengers as we go because we're all on our way to this place that's called better. And our goal is to show up at that space, at that destination, at that place. But our goal is to not show up alone. So that's why I am honored and humbled that you would meet me here every Tuesday and Thursday. And I will say this to you all. If you don't have the book, you can still join the conversation. It helps to have the book because that way you have about 366 quotes and then a few more. I know there are a few more quotes in there because I wrote the book. All right. So we read on Tuesdays the quotes from Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. The quotes for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are what we read on our Thursdays. And then there's a quote for Saturday. But listen, y'all, you take that, do whatever you want to do with it. Read it to start a conversation. Read it as part of your meditation. But just read it and share it. And I am not so disillusioned as to think that every quote is for everybody. I get that. But here's what you do. If there's a quote that doesn't apply to you, keep coming and joining the conversation. Put it in your arsenal. Give it to somebody else. If it doesn't work for you, it'll work for somebody else. If it doesn't work today, it'll work tomorrow. All right. But this book is available on Amazon.com. I want to go ahead and get started with our quotes for this evening. I want to shout out our LTTC VIPs. And I want to do something a little special this evening as well. All right, so let me go ahead and shout out the VIPs. They are Kay Sharp says good evening. Cherie Griffin says good evening. Nina Jeanette says good evening. So thank you. It's good to see all of you all. My good friend and sister Cherie, thank you for joining. All right, listen, I'm going to get started, you all, with the quotes. I'm going to go directly to the quote for July 7th. Going to go straight to the quote for July 7th. And hang on to this one, you all. It says, he wouldn't promise it if he couldn't perform it. Be confident in God. I started this conversation by asking you, how confident are you? How confident are you in your abilities? How confident are you in your faith? How confident are you in your trust? How confident are you in your God? Because as I review this quote, I am keenly aware that we are not that we are all at different places in our spiritual journey. I get that because you all are joining me from all different parts of the world. So I get that we're at different spaces in our journey. I'm aware that we all don't necessarily believe the same thing, or even the same way. We don't believe the same thing. We don't believe the same way. So understand that this quote is not to discriminate or to castigate based on religious beliefs. That's not what it's for. But it is intended to encourage those who sometimes forget how much they are loved by God. That's why I want to go. This quote is to remind us that we are indeed loved by God. It invites us to remember what we are made of. So I want to ask you, do you know what you're made of? Do you know your Constitution? If you don't know your Constitution, and I'm not talking about an old document, but I'm talking about the stuff that we are made up of. If you don't know your Constitution, you all, guess what? You'll sell yourself cheap every time. But when you recognize the value that is inside of this earthen vessel, when you realize that you really are the handiwork of the creator of the universe, you are his masterpiece. When you realize that, you won't sell yourself cheap. So I want us to be sure, fully persuaded that we are fashioned by the hands of someone greater than we are. I want you to understand that God's love for you baffles even the angels in heaven. And if you are not walking in the recognition of that love, then you're living beneath your privilege. I want you to know that there was a conversation concerning you. And the conversation sort of went something like this. What is this man? What is mankind? What is this human being? God, that you are mindful of him. What is it about mankind, about humanity, that you love humanity so much? The fact that God can love us so much is baffling even to the greater part of his creation. So my offering to us this evening, you all, is the freedom to walk in that love. Years ago, when I came to the realization that God is real, now that's funny, the realization that God is real, I decided to walk in the love that he had for me. And I reminded myself that I was loved by him. I reminded myself that it was not arrogance or it was not egotistical to recognize that God loves me. There's nothing arrogant about understanding that God loves you. There's nothing egotistical about understanding that God loves you. But I convinced myself that it is an honor to be loved by God. And so when I recognized and realized that it's an honor to be loved by God, you all, guess what I did? I started walking in the hope and the confidence that he'll never leave me alone. That's what this quote is all about. He wouldn't promise it if he couldn't perform it. So I have a reason to be confident in God. And when I realized that he loved me, y'all, I started walking in that hope and that confidence that not only would he not leave me alone, but that he would always be by my side. That there would never be a moment where I would have to wonder where he was. So for those of us who are walking along life's journey and we sometimes feel like we're walking alone, it seems like we're navigating all by ourselves. It seems like we're meandering to and fro. I just want to remind you that you have what I call an invisible escort. And you can be sure that he loves you. And just as he told Jeremiah, you all, he has a plan that's unfolding for your life. And his plan may not be void of bumps. I'm going to tell you, sometimes we expect the plan to be just easy and smooth and have no difficulties at all. But I'm going to tell you this, he does have a plan. And the plan is unfolding. And the plan may very well include some bumps and some bruises, some holes and some hurdles. But I'm telling you all this, his plan still includes hope and peace and favor and grace and goodness. Yes, his plan does include all of that. His plans includes promises that he will not break, y'all, but promises that he will fulfill. Why can I say that so confidently? Because God is not a man that he should lie. If you don't take anything else from this quote, you all, the one thing that I want you to take away is that God loves you. Second thing I want you to take away is that God is not a liar. And the third thing, I guess, preachers are always given 3 points. But the third thing I want you to take away is that God is a promise keeper. You all know this. A good parent would never promise a child something beyond that parent's capability. I look at God the same way. He wouldn't promise me peace if he weren't capable of delivering it. He wouldn't promise me success, you all, if he were not capable of delivering it into my life. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't promise me joy if he didn't have the wherewithal to cause joy to manifest. Sometimes even in the midst of mourning, joy can manifest. In the midst of bad health and sickness and disease, he has the ability to cause healing and hope and health to manifest. Be confident. Be confident in the God that you serve, and be confident in the gifts that he has given you and the capacity that you have to do all things through him that strengthens you. Be reminded of his love. Be reminded of his love. And again, we may be on different spiritual paths and different spiritual journeys, but I hope that someone can lay hold to that and understand that he wouldn't promise it if he couldn't perform it. He can perform everything, every single thing that comes out of his mouth. All right. We're reading from this book, Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration. Of course, you all, those who have been watching me for a while, you know that I really come on the spiritual platforms. And sometimes I just want to speak to that part of us that feels disconnected and sometimes feels lost. And we feel like we're in this world all by ourselves. But we can be confident that what God says he can do, what he says he can do, he can do. All right, I want to go to the quote for July the 8th. The quote for July 8th says, "You were fashioned to endure, designed to win, and created to withstand." You were fashioned to endure, designed to win, and created to withstand. Have you ever had the experience of a battery dying? Either in a mechanical device or a car, a flashlight, a remote control, or even a watch. If you've ever had this experience, then you understand that the device is still good, but sometimes the battery just needs to be recharged a bit. It's my hope this evening that we can be recharged with the time that we're sharing together. As I often say, it is my goal to make every second significant, every moment matter, and every minute meaningful. I don't intend to waste anybody's time because I know the one valuable asset that we have is time. So thank you for sharing it. I hope in these moments we can somehow be recharged. I'm recharged just by you all showing up. All right. Let's see. Oh my God, Molly, thank you so much for joining while there in DR. Thank you for joining from DR. Appreciate you, my friend. So let's talk about this battery, you all, being recharged. I don't know what kind of day you've had. I don't know how your week is looking so far. For some people, it doesn't take a whole lot to ruin our day. It just doesn't sometimes take a lot to ruin our day. But I want to remind you that for me, the only person who can ruin my day is the one who runs my day. Take that and go with it. The only person who can ruin my day, I don't give people the privilege, the power, or the authority to ruin my day. The only one who can ruin my day is the one who runs my day, and that's God himself. And I get it, though. I understand that the reality of life is sometimes seem to beat us down, and sometimes it seems to beat us up. You don't know whether life is beating you up or beating you down, right? So if you've had that kind of day, or if you've had that kind of week, I want to remind you to hang on, you all. Hang on and hang in there. Why? Because the day will end. The week will end. And you will make it. Yes, you will. You will cross the finish line that's worth celebrating. And even it does not matter whether you ran, whether you walked, or whether you crawled, but you're going to cross the finish line. You are going to make it through this day and this week. So just as we talked about in the previous quote, the kind of stuff that you were made of in your constitution, we talked about that in the previous quote. This is a reminder, you all. This reminder right here is on the heels of that same quote. Why do I say that? Because this quote reminds us that you are fashioned to endure. There's something about you. You are crafted to endure, you all. You were designed. It was the original intent for us to win. You were created to withstand. I don't care what kind of storm comes. I don't care how hard the wind blows. We were just fashioned like that, designed like that, and created like that. And sometimes we forget the strength that wraps around this thing that we call a body and soul and spirit. I remember growing up, and maybe some of you all can relate to this. Put it in the chat if you can relate to what I'm about to say, you all. I remember growing up, and I would see cars of all kinds of conditions riding up and down the highway. Some of them were lemons. Some of them we called jalopies. Some of them we just called an old piece of car. But the truth of the matter, they were still on the highway. I I remember seeing bicycles, and some of you all may remember this. I remember seeing bicycles, you all. Sometimes the handlebars were twisted, the chain was rusty, the kickstand was missing, and the spokes from the tires were missing. I remember all of that. But the fact of the matter is this: they were still rideable. Cars and bicycles. I grew up on the coast along the water. So I saw yachts and sailboats and shrimp boats and canoes and rowboats, all kinds of stuff. I saw them all. And it didn't matter the condition of the boat, you all, as long as it was able to successfully navigate the waters without sinking. What am I saying? It doesn't matter what you look like to other people. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you're functioning. You're surviving, you're succeeding, you're living, you're going, you're thriving, you're making it, you're hoping, you're dreaming, and you're still getting from point A to point B. And guess what, y'all? You're doing it in light of, and sometimes even in spite of, the other junk that you've got to carry. You're doing it and you're making it. And if that's not strong, if that's not tenacious, if that's not creative, if that is not innovative, if that's not determination, then please tell me what is. Because you're making it. It doesn't matter that you look like anybody else along the highway. It doesn't matter that you look like anybody else along the path. It doesn't matter that you look like anybody else along the road. It doesn't matter that you look like anybody else who's navigating or traversing those waters. But you are making it. And sometimes what happens to us, we stop because we see people looking at us. And when we see them looking, we'll develop a narrative in our minds based on what we think is in their heads. And most of the time, the narrative that is in our heads is not the same one that's in their mouths. How many of you all have ever realized, maybe it's just me, how many of y'all have ever realized that you were just wrong, totally wrong about how people perceived you? You thought they were looking at you with disdain, only to discover that they were looking at you with admiration, wondering, how do you do what you do? Sometimes we can be so wrong in how we read people. And other times, yes, we are right. There are other times when we are right. But even when you're right in terms of how you read people, I understand that we are equipped. We are equipped, you all, with stuff to make it. We sometimes see people who are staring at us, glaring at us, peering at us, and sometimes they have these piercing looks. Don't worry about those, because sometimes when you try to write that narrative, you're wrong. I'll tell you this, God told Ezekiel, maybe you've heard of before, but there was this prophet named Ezekiel, and God told Ezekiel, the last thing you need to be worried about is how people are looking at you. He told him, as a matter of fact, I'm going to make you hard enough to endure whatever comes your way. Yes, he did. So that's why sometimes we see the reference to flint. He said, I'm going to make you hard enough to endure whatever comes your way. And I want to remind all of us that we were made hard enough to endure whatever comes our way. So you need to look, yeah, absolutely. We've got to look at ourselves and say, I can make it. Because I'm fashioned to endure. Cutler reminded me that I'm designed to win. He motivated me and inspired me by reminding me that I was created to withstand. May I read to you the anecdote that's at the bottom of this? It says, we have no reason to be afraid or intimidated by situations that stare at you, trying to appear bigger, better, larger, or stronger. Situations will look at that and try to intimidate you, and they want to be bigger than you are, better than you are, stronger than you are. God reminded Ezekiel that he had made us harder than flint and told him, don't be dismayed at the way that people look at you. So I want to say to us today, this evening, don't be dismayed at how people look at you. Don't be dismayed at the narrative that they write about you, because the only narrative that really matters is God's and yours. When I tell you, I almost wanted to grab the sides of these seats because I said that to myself. The only narrative that matters besides God's is mine. All right, so you all listen. We are reading from this book right here, Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration Along the Highway of Life. I'd love for you to go and get this. So when you join the conversation, you can say, whoa, Cutler, that's some good stuff there. But I wrote this probably in a space, in a headspace like I am tonight, realizing that from day to day, if we can just help somebody else make it from day to day, that's all I'm trying to do. So that you can show up tomorrow with a little more tenacity than you did today. All right. Doesn't mean that you didn't have any today, but there's always room for a little more tomorrow. So I'm going to go to the quote now for July 9th. The quote for July 9th says this: if God promised it, he doesn't need your help to perform it. If God promised it, he does not need your help to perform it. Let me read the anecdote that's at the bottom of that. It says God is very clear about what he says and what he promises. He's very clear. He's equally clear about his ability to fulfill his word. He's very clear. This quote reminds me, you all, that not only are we our biggest critics sometimes, but we often sometimes are also our biggest stumbling block. We're sometimes our biggest stumbling block. We sometimes get in our own way more than anybody else. We can sometimes sabotage our own plans. And so we have to remember sometimes just step aside, just get out of the way. Just do what you do and just live life. Stop scrutinizing what you're doing so much until you're messing up your own plan. Don't try to think for anybody else. Think for yourself. Don't try to plan for anybody else unless it's your responsibility. Just plan for yourself. And understand, have you ever made a promise? When you make promises, I dare say you make those promises because you are fully aware of your capacity and your ability to keep the promise. You make the promise realizing that you have the authority to carry out what you said. You make the promise understanding that not only do you have the power, the authority, but you have the right to do what you say. God is the same way. If he does not promise anything beyond his capacity or beyond his capability. So if he promised you peace in the midst of the storm, if he promised you joy in the midst of sorrow, if he promised you success when it seems like there's defeat and failure all around it, God can keep his promises, y'all. Every single one. And sometimes I get it. Sometimes people say, well, where do I find these promises? One, he promised to never leave us, never forsake us. He promised to always be with us. Just pick up the Bible a little bit. There's some promises in there. I've talked about promises a whole lot. I tend to scatter them throughout our conversations because I say to you, one of the promises that I really live on the most is that God promised me a hope and a future. Promised me that I could expect my life to be a success. I could expect him to be there with me. I could expect that he would never bring me to something without bringing me through it. I could expect that when I'm too weak to carry myself, that he would carry me through it. So not only is he walking with me, but many times he's carrying me through. All right, you all, and I know I said I'm only here for 1,800 seconds, and I know I usually only do the quotes from Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but I've got to do this quote. I've got to go to the Saturday quote. That's a little bonus that I want to give you all. The Saturday quote for July 10th says this, you all. Please grab this one because this is the truth of my offering to you all tonight. When you allow the who I shall be to show up more than the who I used to be, miracles happen. Let me say that again. When you allow the who I shall be to show up more than the who I used to be, miracles happen. The gift that I offer us tonight is the ability to see ourselves beyond our failures, to see ourselves beyond our weaknesses, to see ourselves beyond our challenges, to see ourselves beyond our hurdles, to see ourselves beyond our low moments, beyond our mistakes, beyond our regrets.
And when I tell you all, I'm really speaking to myself, because I remember a time when the only thing I could see was my mistakes, my challenges, my regrets, my dark paths, and my dark past. But when you can see beyond who I used to be and see who I shall be, that's when miracles happen. When you see the good in you, the value in you, the promise in you, the hope in you, the expectations in you, the fulfillment of all that God has, when you see that in you, when you just see it, miracles happen. When you release your failures and let them go and don't hold yourself hostage to your past, miracles happen. And so I'm offering us all tonight the gift of letting the past go. For some of us, the past was just a few seconds ago, but I offer you the gift of letting that go so miracles can happen. Because it does me no good. I'm living in the present and dwelling on the past. That doesn't do me any good. Because I've said it before, sometimes we can't say hello to a bright future until we say goodbye to a dark past. Can I say that again? Sometimes we cannot say hello to a bright future until we say goodbye to a dark past. And so I challenge us, talk about going along this highway to better. I challenge you, tomorrow show up. I said, I'm not showing up based on what happened yesterday, but I'm showing up based on what can happen today. Who I shall be has shown up. That doesn't mean that your past won't creep up and tap you on the shoulder every now and then. But when you make a conscientious effort, a deliberate effort, an intentional effort, to say who I shall be, it's got to show up more than who I used to be. You all, that is the space where miracles can happen. I want to thank you all for spending these 1,800 seconds with me. I was almost emotionally overcome for just a moment, because I remember these days, you all. I remember those days of allowing who I used to be to always show up, because it seemed as if I was so bound by who I used to be, so connected to who I used to be. It was like the ball and chain. I was trying to walk into tomorrow, but I was dragging the ball and chain of who I used to be. And one day I said, God, you've got to help me set myself free. And I started seeing a brighter future, a brighter day, a brighter tomorrow, a brighter next moment. That's the space where miracles can happen. I offer you that same space, a space where miracles can happen. I want to close tonight by sharing, if I may, this poem. All right? Because sometimes we just need this 1,800 seconds. We need the right timing. So I want to offer you this from one of my books. I don't even know what number it is right now. I think my mother would probably say it's book number 2. I think it's book number 2 or 3. It's somewhere, you all. But listen, let me just share this with you all. When the time is right, you know it. You feel it. You hear that little voice inside that echoes like 1,000 rivers telling you yes. When the time is right, you sense it, you smell it, you feel an inner strength that comes from a place where not even your ancestry can take you. When the time is right, you all, you believe it. You love it, you cling to it, stand upon it, and hold fast to it, knowing that there is an undeniable hour that has come to change the very essence of your life. When the time is right, you live it, you trust it, you seize it, and know that your steps have been ordered by a source that is higher, far higher than the pinnacles of your greatest faith. When the time is right, you obey it, you accept it. Do not question it, don't doubt it, and do not challenge it. But walk, talk, breathe, move, hope, and do all that you know is right to do. For that, my friends, is when the time is right for you. Until next Tuesday, you all, let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Tell somebody else about my channel, please, if you don't mind. And keep your heads up, keep your hopes up. There's a pandemic outside, so you all stay safe, stay sane, and know that from my heart to yours, there is and will always be so much love. Until next time, my friends, good night.